Well, hello. Welcome to Football Time with Chris. Something that may or may not get any airtime, something that may or may not get any views, but we're here anyways. We got a lot to talk about in the sports world. Mostly football right now, I know. Some of you are more basketball fans, and I respect that, but me, myself, and I like the football a little better than the basketball. I follow it a little more closely. While there are some things that definitely are worth talking about in the basketball world, especially when we think about the whole college basketball and where is Duke and Kentucky? Neither one seem to be making any kind of noise. Neither is North Carolina, for that matter. But that's neither here nor there in this edition, because we're just going to be focusing on football. Some of our highlights, we're going to discuss the topics of Deshaun Watson, and we're going to talk about Matthew Stafford, and we're even going to talk about the upcoming Super Bowl. That being said, let us pause for a second for some commercials. Just kidding, there's no commercials in this. We are not a commercialized organization, at least as far as this goes. This is a pilot episode, if you will. Well, the first thing on my agenda, and since I am the runner of the show, I suppose I get to set the agenda. So the first discussion that I see worth talking about is that of Deshaun Watson. DW4, if you will, for all those Clemson faithful. Deshaun Watson. What a career that this young man has had up to this point. I believe, personally, you could put him in the category of at least the top 5, if not the top 3 quarterbacks, prolific quarterbacks, at least at this stage in this year and the years the few years leading up to this year. I think the only one quarterback right now that I could really put ahead of him that I would say maybe has more of a prolific career as far as stats are concerned is possibly Patrick Mahomes. Of course, that's due to the Super Bowl that he's already won, the next Super Bowl that he's already going to. He's got some numbers behind that, and some definite talent to be talked about, to be discussed. But, that being said, Deshaun Watson, even in a losing year, in a year where they lost the vast majority of their games, Deshaun Watson stood out. He threw for an impressive number of touchdowns and yardage, even in losing efforts. So there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about a guy who he was giving it his all out there, giving it all that he had on that field, and they just kept falling short, mostly due to lack of defensive effort, it seemed like at times. They couldn't get third down stops. They couldn't get stops in the red zone at all. They were a ship that was sinking and just kept sinking. The biggest wins that they had, of course, were against teams that really didn't have a whole lot to offer anyways. They had 4 wins, and I think they beat Detroit once. They stomped them on Thanksgiving Day, which who doesn't beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, right? That's a trend that the Lions are hoping that they're going to end, but that's another topic for another moment. Right now we're just talking about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson. Angry young man. He's once out of Houston. Can't say that people really blame him. All of the things that are surrounding Deshaun right now, it's mostly bad news when you look at it. It's a lot of bad news going on around Deshaun Watson, and so we can't really say that we blame him for wanting out of Houston. Although maybe we think that the timing of things might not be in his favor. The biggest team that with the most to offer right now are the Jets, and that just doesn't seem like a very winning, at least, approach to football when we really come down and think about it objectively. The Jets probably would be the last team that I would want to go to. Although, the trade does make a lot of sense for the Texans. I mean, you think about it, they could get Sam Darnold, who, say what you will about him, I don't think he's had a very fair shake in the NFL, being the star quarterback of the Jets, who didn't put any pieces around him to make it any better for him. Think about what Deshaun had in Houston this year. Will Fuller for half the year. You had Brandon Cooks, who is he's one of the top talents at receivers, at least one of the top talents right now at receiver. So you've got some guys there. You got some guys there in Houston. I think the biggest name that we all know from the Jets right now is Jameis Crowder at the receiver position. We don't even really know the running back. He's a new guy. I mean, of course they have Frank Gore over there, but he's old. He's well past his prime. He's on his way out of the NFL. And this new guy, this rookie that they had, the sensation that they had that helped them win the 2 games that they won, of course, that's a big deal, I suppose. But they don't really have anything to offer. They don't really have anything to offer Deshaun. And so it really doesn't make sense for Deshaun. And so I thought to myself, what are a few other teams that could potentially be in the hunt? I believe that Dan Orlovsky pointed out that the Giants ought to make a run for him. I believe that the Giants are satisfied with Daniel Jones. I believe that they feel like they can win games with him. I don't know why they're so stuck on Daniel Jones. I think that they could do better. I honestly think that they could do better. They could have more prolific quarterback play, especially if they brought in a talent like Deshaun Watson. I think they have a lot of fast talents on at wide receiver, and they've got Saquon Barkley, who would obviously be a threat if you have Deshaun Watson in the backfield. So that is an interesting idea for a trade. But I just don't see the Giants making that step, taking the step that needs to be taken to do something like that. Which brings us to who are the most likely teams who would do some kind of a trade. You think about Pittsburgh. They have Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph right now, who both they've had their chances in the NFL so far. Mason Rudolph, of course, going on that stint when Ben Roethlisberger was hurt last year. And he went on he won a stint and won a lot of games. But I don't think that he is prolific enough to be more than a game manager. And I think in today's NFL, if you really want to win Super Bowls, if you want to be a playoff team, you have to have more than a game manager right now, especially if your defense is going to be giving up 30 points in a single game. You definitely got to have more than a game manager. You're going to have a game winner. And so I think Deshaun Watson makes sense. I think he makes sense in that spot. I also think he makes sense for the Panthers. I think if the Panthers have already made it known that they're not going to be keeping Teddy Bridgewater around. They don't think Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback of the future for their organization. Why not go after a Deshaun Watson? Why not just do what you got to do to get him there? I think that would be a perfect fit for Deshaun. I don't think that it's a perfect trade opportunity for the Texans, and that's probably why they won't really seek it out very much. But I think it is a good spot for Deshaun Watson to land. I think he's already said that he'd rather be playing closer to home. He wants to come home, and so that would be a destination that would be desirable to him. However, I think the number one spot in which, if Deshaun Watson landed, would be the biggest spot for him to land would be Miami, quite obviously. Miami has a number one defense. They had one of the toughest defense to score against in the NFL this year. The only team that proved to beat them and beat them by a lofty score, I think, was Buffalo, who put 56 up on this defense. Other than that, I don't think they scored out of the mid-20s, and any team scored out of the mid-20s against this defense. Now, a lot of people don't want to see Miami give up Tua Tagovailoa so easy. They think that they've got a talent there in Miami and Tua, and they think that they haven't seen. He had a winning record after all. They don't think that they've seen enough out of him to say whether or not he's going to be a prolific or not a prolific quarterback. My only argument to that is, are we going to go on the ifs, ands, and maybes, or are we going to go on proven talent? Because if you want to win Super Bowls and you want to have a successful run at a Super Bowl, you're going to have prolific talent. It's going to have to happen. You're going to have proven NFL talent, a guy who's been there. Deshaun Watson's been there. He hasn't been to the Super Bowl, but he went to 2 national championships in college. Won one of them. On top of that, he's been to the playoffs. He's won playoffs at the NFL level with a team, I might add, that really he and DeAndre Hopkins were the only real talent. Not to take away from what the running backs were able to do. I think Lamar Miller was a good running back. I think he definitely had his talent, but he had his upsides. But where is he right now? He's a practice squatter. He left. He got moved out of Houston, and he's now he's a practice squad player. He's not even starting anywhere. Why? Because teams are moving on from him. Because he wasn't the talent that everybody thought that he was going to be coming into the league. And so I think there's something to be said about that. I think that's definitely something, at least worth thinking about. When you think about Deshaun Watson, he is a prolific talent with minimal talent at wide receiver this year. He threw for the most yards. He won an award for having thrown for the most yards in this season in the NFL. So I think Miami's a good fit, and I think if Miami makes that move, they're Super Bowl contenders next year. Next year, they're Super Bowl contenders. I have no question in my mind. They barely missed out on the playoff run this year. Next year, they make that move for Deshaun Watson. It makes all the difference. It makes the world of difference. They have all the pieces. Young talent, fast talent, route running talent, catchability radius is astronomical with their receivers. Deshaun Watson's a perfect fit. That being said, personally, I think he's going to wind up with the Jets. Sorry, Deshaun. Wish that there was a better outcome for you, but it just that's just the way it looks like everything's rolling. And I could be wrong. I hope I am. Because I think Deshaun would do better at almost any other team. But the Jets is a place where quarterbacks go to die. And that's just the way I feel about it. And I know some people don't really like that opinion. I don't like that I have that opinion. But it just seems to be the trend of late. Another huge topic that has happened in the NFL just within the last 24 hours, Matt Stafford has been traded from the Lions to the Rams. And the Rams traded away Goff and some draft picks to acquire Matt Stafford. This, I believe, is an interesting pickup for the Rams. I think the Lions are going to be the Lions next year. I don't think that this trade helps them in any way. I really don't. I not that I don't like Jared Goff. I think that he has his upside. I think that he definitely has a ceiling that is above most players. But I also think that most of the problem in Los Angeles with the Rams was Jared Goff. You've got Cooper Kupp. You've got Robert Woods. Bobby Trees, as people like to call him. You got the players on the outside that are making catches that are supposed to be big time players. You got a running back in Austin Eckler who should be big time player, but they weren't really able to do a whole lot for most of the year. I'm sorry, that is not Austin Eckler with them. They are the ones with Henderson. Henderson was their running back. But still, he's a big-time young talent. He's still a big-time young talent, and he should still be making yardage. And so I think that this Stafford pickup, it's either going to be the best pickup that they've made, or it's going to be that they traded Jared Goff for Jared Goff in Los Angeles. And that's definitely, I think, the feel around the whole NFL about this pickup. I think they feel that they've answered a question there, though, because Matt Stafford, he's a proven quarterback. He's a quarterback that I think if he was not in Detroit for as long as he was there, I think that he's probably got a Super Bowl ring already. He's got the it factor, the intangible factor that you want out of a quarterback. On the other side of that coin, though, I think Jared Goff in Detroit is going to be the same old, same old. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in the way that things are played and the ways that things are viewed in any of the categories, really. Categorically, I think it's the most sideways move that any team's ever made. Maybe even backwards. Because you still got the same talent at receiver. Kenny Golladay, who's been hurt more than he's played the last 2 years. So DeAndre Swift, maybe you're hoping that maybe he'll pick up and be the star talent that leads your team. But I don't think Goff is the answer in Detroit. I don't know that they think that Goff is the answer in Detroit, but I think they wanted to try something new, and I think that they were obviously dissatisfied with Stafford. I don't think Stafford was your problem in Detroit. I think that Stafford wanted out of Detroit. I would want out of Detroit because they just didn't. They don't have anything to offer, skill wise. That's just my opinion. I could definitely be wrong. Goff could be the answer to their prayers, and they take off, and that would be cool to watch. That'd be fun to watch, but I guarantee they lose another blowout game on Thanksgiving this year, and that's just the way I feel about it. I could be wrong. You could disagree with me. I welcome that. Now to talk about the topic that I really desperately wanted to get to and to discuss in my first, whatever this is, episode. I'll call it an episode. The Super Bowl. The Super Bowl! Let me give you some statistics so far. Just from the last game for both teams, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. I want to give some statistics for the last game. Kansas City, in their last game alone, against the Buffalo Bills, who I admit don't have the greatest of defenses. I don't think of the two teams that they've faced, I think Tampa Bay has faced a stronger defense than Kansas City has had to go through on their way to the Super Bowl. That being said, against the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City had 9 total drives. Well, they had 9 possessions, I'll say. They had 9 total possessions. And of those 9 total possessions, 6 of them were scoring possessions. Of those 6 possessions, 5 of them were touchdowns. 5 of them were touchdowns. That's a total of 3 possessions that they did not score on. 2 of those one was a kneel at the end of the half, and the other was a kneel at the end of the game to close the game. The only other possession that they had that they didn't score was a punt in the first quarter. From the beginning of the second quarter to the end of the fourth, Kansas City outright dominated that football game. It was like there was not another team on the field. You had Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill who were just running and scoring touchdowns like it was Thanksgiving Day and they were at the buffet. It was feasting. This coming off of they did the same thing against the Browns the week before. They had every drive that Patrick Mahomes touched the football was a score of some sort, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. Every drive Patrick Mahomes had in the game against the Browns was a scoring drive. He just looks tired out there, man. He's sleeping he's sleeping through these games. He's sleepwalking through these games. These other teams, they don't have anything for Patrick Mahomes. He's on a different level, a different playing field right now. And it's showing on the football field. It's showing. I think some of that has to do with the talent around him. I think that Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce may be the most prolific catching duo, receiver, tight end duo that have ever played the game of football. I strongly believe that. And with 5 more years on their deal, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. Patrick's going to be throwing to them for a long time. And I think that's going to mean more Super Bowls for Patrick Mahomes and these Kansas City Chiefs, because they've got something figured out there in Kansas City. On the other side of the field, they're going to be facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had 11 drives against Green Bay. 11 drives, 5 of them scoring drives, and 4 of those scoring drives were touchdowns. So Tampa Bay against Green Bay had as many scoring drives as Kansas City had touchdowns against Buffalo. That's impressive for Kansas City. 4 touchdowns. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions, and we had 1 kneel. Again, though, there's only 4. There's only a few, a very few number of. Well, there's 6. There's six possessions that they didn't score. And some say, well, 6. That means they had a 6-to-5 ratio. 6 possessions where they didn't score, 5 possessions where they scored. And you'd be right in that assessment, and that is definitely something to be weary of, especially when you think about the fact that Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions, and I watched that game personally. And in watching that game, the interceptions that he threw were deep passes, where he just didn't look like he had the arm strength to get it there. He just didn't look like he had the arm strength. He didn't look like the Tom Brady that we've seen, who has won all the Super Bowls that Tom Brady has won. That being said, we have to give him credit for the fact that Tampa Bay went from a team that was that even a playoff berth was a laughable thought, to now they're in the Super Bowl. They've got home field advantage even for the Super Bowl this year. That's Tom Brady's leadership right there. Tom Brady brings a leadership to Tampa Bay that I don't think they've had before. Bruce Arians, and as great as a coach and all the acclamations that are going to go down in his name by the time his career is over, he's not a coach that brings the type of leadership that Tom Brady, the type of system-driven football that Tom Brady brings when he comes to a town like Tampa Bay, when he played in New England. Tom Brady knows what it takes to win championships. He knows where you have to be able to win championships, to play for the top spots. And he's shown it. If you don't see it in where he is right now with Tampa Bay, maybe you see it in all the Super Bowl rings that he already has. So I think Tom Brady, and look at it, you have Tom Brady, he brings leadership, he brings discipline to an undisciplined team, and on top of that, he has all the talent in the world at wide receiver. He has 3 of the top wide receivers in the NFL today. 3 of them. Not to mention, he's got a couple of tight ends that could go out and be starters and be prolific on any team as well. So he's got a team around him. His defense is a really strong defense. I think better than any of the defenses he ever had with New England right now. He's got a great defense. There's 3 interceptions. You know he threw 3 interceptions. You know how many of those interceptions wound up being scoring drives for Green Bay? A big fat 0. None of them. Not a single one of his interceptions turned into points for Green Bay. That's a great defense. That's a great defense. Against Aaron Rodgers, who's arguably the MVP this year in the NFL, they've got a lot of things going for them. But Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. He's a leader. He is a leader. He is the leader of that offense, and it's head and shoulders above most any other talent in the league right now. He's a playmaker of all playmakers. He can make whatever play that he wants to. I think it was last year, he had a play where he wasn't even looking. He flipped the ball and with the opposite hand that he throws with, and somehow he gets like 15 yards from it. That stuff doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen in the NFL. He's a playmaker. He's a difference maker. The guy, any down that he is out there on that field could be a touchdown, and it's no question. Any down that he's out on the field, it's at least going to be 10 yards. So, he's a playmaker. He's a baller, man. The one thing that I will say that is the knock against Mahomes right now, just for this season, it's not true for last season. It's not really even been true in the playoffs. In this season, though, he has struggled in press situations where he had to throw the ball deep down the field to catch up with a team who has pulled away from him a little bit. But in each of those games, even though he struggled in those situations, in each of those games, the only game he's lost to was the Raiders. It's impressive, the run that Kansas City is on. It's impressive, the talent level that Patrick Mahomes has that he is displaying on that football field. It's just impressive, and it should be impressive. It should be impressive to all of us. That being said, I don't think the young buck is going to beat the old guard. That's right. I have TB12 as the Super Bowl champion. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them now, and I'm going to say that the Buccaneers are going to win, and they're going to win 38-24. They're going to win this thing going away. Yep, they're going to win going away. They're going to have in the fourth quarter, they're going to have a touchdown drive. They're going to have an interception, and they're going to have another touchdown, and that's going to seal the game. I could be wrong, but that's the way that I feel about it. That's what I think is going to happen. I believe that the Buccaneers are going to win that game 38-24. Tom Brady, he's been here before. He's seen it all. He's faced the likes. The quarterbacks that have beat him are Peyton Manning and Nick Foles, or not Peyton, Eli Manning and Nick Foles in this setting. Eli Manning and Nick Foles. Neither of the two would we call prolific. Eli's probably going to wind up in the Hall of Fame just because he beat Tom Brady. I don't think that he had a whole lot of years that were really all that impressive, but he did beat Tom Brady twice. So, and then you got Nick Foles, who was a backup quarterback. He wasn't even the starter that year, who went and took the Eagles and won a Super Bowl. He's seen Matt Ryan. He's seen the likes of Matt Ryan. He's faced Matt Ryan. He beat Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan had a huge lead. All that offensive power, huge lead, didn't mean anything to Tom Brady. Led that second half in unbelievable comeback fashion. I just, that's where I think it is. Buccaneers are going to win the Super Bowl. Tom Brady is going to prove that he won the divorce with New England. And everybody's going to write about how Tom Brady will forever be the GOAT. That's my prediction. Disagree with any of the things that I've said on here? Feel free to write about it. Feel free to tell me about it. Please, I love the conversation. I love the chance to talk about these sporting events, these sporting conversations. Please like, please subscribe, and please follow for more. See you later.